Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for this practice where we will build strength in our core. But before we get started, I'd like you to subscribe to my channel. Subscribe, hit the notification button, that way you'll get a note every time I upload a new video. Let's get started. Why don't we get started in child's pose today with the knees wide and the big toes together. Slide your hips back over your heels and really settle your hips down onto the heels as much as possible. Reach the hands forward, bringing the forehead right down onto the mat. You can put a block or something underneath your forehead if you like, if it seems far. Press into your fingertips, slide your hips back a little further, and then reach out through your hands, really stretching through the front of the body, the sides of the body. Big stretch from the fingertips to the shoulders, from the shoulders to the hips. Taking a moment here to begin the practice. Breathing into the body and finding yourself just still here. And almost set yourself in a position of being an observer of your body. So just observe how you're feeling today. Observe the sensations of the breath moving through the body. Then when we're ready, float your way up to a tabletop pose. Draw your knees in till they are underneath your hips. Wrists underneath the hands. Let's just take a couple of cat-cows, tipping the tailbone up, opening up the front of the body. Heart comes forward, crown of the head is high for a cow belly breath. As you exhale, turn the tailbone down, lift the back of your heart, broaden the shoulders, drop the crown of the head for an angry cat pose. Let's move through this a couple more times, inhaling to stretch the front of the body. Exhaling to compress the front of the body, breathing into the back body here. One more time each way. Waking up the spine with this movement and with this breath. And then when you're ready, let's curl into your toes. Curl deeply into your toes. Make sure all 10 toes, if you have to reach back to get your pinky toe involved, do that. And then slide your hips back again one more time over the heels. Pressing your hands into the mat. Maybe the forehead's going to come down to the mat, or maybe your head's just going to hover between your upper arms. And press into the hands, slide the hips back, really waking up the bottom of the feet. Inhale to come forward to tabletop. Keep those toes hooked under as you exhale to lift the knees 2 inches up off the mat. Gazing down on the mat, lengthen through the spine. Pull the collarbones forward, the hips back. Low belly is tucked in. And on your next inhale, pivot on your toes to bring the knees wide as you slide your hips back over your heels. Knees are going to stay up off the mat. Inhale to come forward to your floating table. Exhale, slide back, hips back over the heels. Inhale to your floating table. Exhale to this. I feel like a little froggy in this pose. And then inhale, floating table, and then listen up. This time, exhale back, downward facing dog, but keep your heels up off the mat and your knees bent. So a bit of a modified down dog. Press into your hands, slide your hips up, your sits bones up towards the ceiling. Lengthen through the spine. Find that stretch, the stretch from the hands, the fingertips to the shoulders to the hips. And then let's begin to work into that right leg, dropping the heel down towards the mat and working the knee straight. Pressing the back of the knee towards the back of the room. Left leg is hanging limply out of the left hip socket. Big breath here. Now, as you exhale, I want you to begin to keep the left heel lifted and begin to straighten the left knee so that your hips are out of alignment. Just breathe into that a little bit. Stretching maybe a little more deeply now into the left side body, the left back of the left leg. And bending into the left knee again, drawing the hips back to level. Lift the right heel, bend the right knee, and begin to work into the left leg, bringing it towards straight. Opening up the back of the leg. Letting the right leg sort of dangle out of the hip socket. Just be very loose and relaxed. And then from here, we're going to keep the right heel up and straighten the right leg, lifting the right hip. Pushing that right back of your knee back towards the wall behind you and opening up the back of that leg, just feeling the hips out of alignment. And bending the right knee again, drawing the hips back into alignment. Bend both knees deeply. Bring your gaze forward to between your thumbs. Bring your shoulders forward over your hips so you're back into your floating tabletop. Press into the palms and round the spine like an angry cat. Lift the back of your heart and step your feet forward to the front of the mat. Fingertips come to the shins. Roll your shoulders back, gazing down at the mat. Nice long spine here for a halfway lift. As you exhale, pull the navel in towards the spine and drop the crown of your head. Inhale to soften your knees and roll all the way up to stand. Hands up when you get here. Look up if that feels good. As you exhale, bring your hands all the way down through heart center to a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. As you exhale, soften the knees, plant the hands, and bring your feet back to the back of the mat. Come to a plank pose. You can drop to your knees here or stay up on your toes. Feet are hip width apart, pushing the heels back towards the wall behind you and pulling the collarbones forward. Puff the low belly up, turn the tailbone down, and broaden the shoulder blades in away from the spine. Nice, easy breathing here. Your next inhale brings the shoulders forward over the fingertips. And as you exhale, keep the elbows in towards the midline as you lower all the way to the mat. Pressing the tops of the feet into the mat, let's inhale to lift the heart, Cobra Pose. Keeping the left shoulder back, let's look over the right shoulder. Nice gentle twist here. Inhale to center and exhale to gaze over the left shoulder. At the same time, keeping the right shoulder back. So we're keeping the chest pointed forward. Coming back to center and exhale to release. Inhale to table or plank on your toes or on your knees. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Inhale to let the right heel float. As you exhale, round the spine like an angry cat and draw your knee to your nose, shoulders over wrists. So you're almost like in a plank pose with your knee squeezed in, squeezing it across the front of the body. Inhale to extend that right leg. As you exhale, bring the right knee to the right elbow or higher than the right elbow if you can. Inhale to extend. As you exhale, draw your right knee to your left elbow and then thread that right foot under your left arm, coming to the outside edge of your right foot on the mat. It'll be off the mat. Roll to the inside edge of your left foot. So stay here for a moment with both hands on the mat. Maybe bend the elbows towards the back of the mat. Lower that right hip, just working into the IT band. A nice stretch there. Lifting the hips. You can stay like this or bring your left hand to the left hip. Draw the left hip over the right. Maybe bring the left hand up to the ceiling. If your balance is good, you can gaze up towards the left thumb. Nice big breath in here. As you exhale, reach the left hand towards the front of the room and then drop it down onto the mat. Right knee comes into the chest and then step the right foot back to plank pose. Inhale, shoulders forward. Exhale, lower halfway or all the way to the mat. Inhale, open your heart, cobra or up dog. As you exhale, roll over your toes. Use the strength of your core to find your way back to a downward facing dog. Inhale, the left heel floats. As you exhale, knee to nose. Gazing back at your right big toe, squeeze your nose in towards your knee into towards your nose. Shoulders over the wrists. Inhale to find extension, the left leg. As you exhale, left knee to left elbow. Inhale, extend the left heel high. As you exhale, left knee crosses under the body towards the right elbow, and then thread the left foot underneath the right arm. Roll to the inner edge of your right foot. Stay here for a moment. Bend the elbows back, working into the left outer hip. Pressing into the hands, you can lift the shoulders. Stay here just like this, or bring your right hand to your right hip. Draw the right hip over the left. Stay like this, or bring the right fingertips up towards the ceiling for a side plank variation. Big breath in here. Lift the hips. Stay for the exhale. Inhale to reach the right hand overhead, and then exhale to make your way back to your high plank pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, let's bring your feet wide to the width of the mat. So we're in a downward facing dog with the feet wide, just opening up here. Maybe you want to swing your hips a little bit. Soften your knees from here, and let's walk the hands in towards your feet. Draw your feet in just slightly so the toes are pointing forward, and they're just a little bit, your feet are at the outer width of your hip, so just a little bit wider than hip width. Soften your legs quite a bit and draw your hands back behind your heels. So you're going to have to bend your knees a lot to make this happen. And then frame your heels with your thumb and your first finger, sinking the hips. So we're coming into like a squat. Tuck your chin into your throat. Let the head hang heavy, and then draw your squeeze your shoulders with your knees. Easy breathing here. Really firm pressure with the knees on the shoulders. And then from here, you can release the hands, walk them back around in front of your toes, lift the hips, drop the crown of the head. Maybe we're going to sway here. Take your opposite elbow or let your fingertips graze the mat as you sway from side to side, lengthening the spine. Fingertips can come to the mat now. Bring your toes to the width of the mat and your heels in a little bit, sinking the hips. This time into a low yogi squat. Bring the elbows inside the knees. Hands at prayer, or you can bring your knuckles together. Trying to draw your forearms parallel to the floor as you lengthen up through the spine. Nice low squat. Bringing your fingertips to the mat behind your hips. Lower yourself down onto the mat and scooch your hips into the center of the mat. Extend both legs long. Fingertips next to the hips, lengthen up through the spine. And as you exhale, hinge forward from the hips, first coming for length. Finding the sits bones down on the mat, using your hands next to your body to keep your spine nice and long, bringing your chest forward. And as you exhale, you can round down. Let your hands come forward and rest on the mat on either side of your legs. Breathe into the back body. Notice where you're feeling the sensation of this pose. As you inhale, roll all the way up. Bring your right knee with you. Squeeze it into your body. And then bring your right foot to the outside of your left knee. And then squeeze it up towards your hip a little bit. Lengthen up through the spine. The right hand can come behind your hips. Lean back a little bit with a long spine. And then lengthen up one more time, reaching up with the left hand, finding length here. And then as you exhale, you can curl your left elbow around the right knee or bring the left elbow to the outside of the right knee. Coming to a seated twist. Both sits bones are heavy and evenly pressed into the mat while you roll your right shoulder back. You can bring the right chin to the right shoulder. Unwind from this twist. Draw your knee into your chest, lift your right foot, and then holding onto the back of your leg, bring the shin parallel to the ceiling. Reach forward with your hands and take your inner and outer foot with your hands, pulling the knee in close to the chest. From here, you can begin to extend that right heel up, bringing the right leg towards straight. It's going to come as straight as you feel like making it. Bending your elbows if you can, bringing your chin in towards your face, just seeing where you come to. And then letting the elbows come towards straight again. Lengthen up through the spine, roll the shoulders back. And then here's a little bit of a challenge. See if you can do it. Release your hands from your foot and keep your right foot at that same height. You can either bend the right knee to bring the shin parallel to the ceiling or keep the leg straight as you lift your left foot to meet the right. Bring your knees into your chest, give yourself a hug, and then extend the legs. Always fun to just try something a little bit new, see what happens. Lift up through the spine, fingertips next to your hips, help keep the spine nice and long, and then hinge forward. Final forward fold. Find yourself feeling very long here, rolling down over the legs. Hands can come forward on either side of the legs. Just let your arms drape heavy out of your shoulder socket. Inhale to roll up. Draw your left knee in close. Give it a hug. And then set that left foot down on the outside of the right leg. Squeeze the right foot in up towards your hip. Lengthen up through the spine. Left fingertips support you from behind. Lean back a little bit as you begin with a nice straight spine, but lean back a little bit as you begin the twist. Then reach up with the right hand and draw the right elbow to the outside of the left knee. Lengthen up through the spine. You can bring your gaze over towards your left shoulder. Unwind from this twist. Draw the left knee back into the chest. Bring the left foot over to its proper side. Take the outside and the inside of your left foot with your hands. And then bring the left shin towards parallel to the floor. Can stay here just like this, or you can begin to extend. Just bring that leg towards wherever it'll come for you comfortably. Working into the hamstring. Stay here, begin to bend the elbows, draw that leg closer to your face. See if maybe your tummy and your leg and your thigh are gonna meet. And then letting the elbows come towards straight once again, lengthen up through the spine, roll the shoulders back. And as a little challenge, let go of your left foot, see if you can keep that height with your left foot. Maybe you want to bend the left knee, bringing the shin towards parallel to the ceiling, or you just want to lift the right foot coming up to boat pose. Draw the knees into the chest. Give yourself a little hug. Plant the feet down onto the mat, and we're going to come now onto our backs. Reach the fingertips forward as you roll all the way down onto your spine. Bring the feet to the width of the mat, the arms at a T or cactus, and roll across your hips. Let the knees drop from side to side. Just a couple of breaths here. And then when you're ready, come to center and extend the legs down towards the far corners of the mat. For Savasana, tuck your shoulders in underneath you. Your chin's tucked in, neck is long. Couple of breaths here. Just find yourself breathing deep and easy. Once again, being a witness to our breath, to our bodies, seeing how we feel. When you are ready to begin moving again, begin with your fingers and toes. Turn your wrists and your ankles, your head from side to side. Reach out through your arms. Big stretch here. Right through your entire length of your body. Then draw your knees into your chest. Give yourself a hug. And then roll to one side or the other. Maybe rock and roll for a little bit to massage the low back, and then you can come to the fetal position. A few breaths here. When you're ready, you can bring yourself up to a seated pose. Just take your time. Find yourself comfortable on your mat. And when you are ready, draw the shoulders up over the hips, the crown of the head high. Inhale the fingertips up to the ceiling. As you exhale, draw your thumbs to the third eye and hinge forward. It's our final pose. Thank you for joining me today. Namaste. Thanks for joining me today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this practice. If you did, hit the like button and send me a note in the comments. Let me know what you liked about it, and I will be sure to include more of that in the future practices. Namaste.